What are the infrastructural factors? They represent the financial institutions. Now, what do you mean by inflation? Inflation is nothing but rising prices. Banks are the most important infrastructure we need for any economy. What do you mean by interest rates? Interest rates refers to the bank interest, the lending interest rate of the banks. Hello everyone, I am Purnima, faculty in the Department of Commerce, Vidhyaashram Pre-University College, Temple of Excellence. In continuation of my sessions on business environment, that is chapter 3 of the business studies for second PUC, in this session, we will be discussing about the business environment. Now, if you can look at this picture, the business environment has the various factors here. So, it comprises of the economic environment, social environment, technological environment, political environment and legal environment. So, all these together, they affect the business. Now, let us discuss each one of these environments in detail. Okay, now in this economic environment, what do we get to know? How the economic environment affects the business. Now, in the economic environment, we find the interest rates. Now, what do you mean by interest rates? Interest rates refers to the bank interest, the lending interest rate of the banks, or it may be any other financial institutions, or it also means the inflation rate. So, what is the rate of inflation in which the economy is surviving? Then, next, changes in disposable income. Now, what do you mean by disposable income? Disposable income is that income which is remaining with the person after fulfilling all his basic necessities. That is, he would have spent for the essential commodities, and whatever is remaining, that we call it as the disposable income. Then next is the stock market indices. So stock market indices, it is a barometer of the economic activities in the nation. So in the stock market activities, if you have a very high index, that means the trading is very high. Then the value of rupee. So value of rupee, this is very, very important. So it is more relevant for the exporters and importers, those business persons who are engaged in export and import business. So they are some of the management practices in a business enterprise. So this economic environment, it comprises of all these things. So these things affect the management practices. Then next, we'll just come into detail of how it will affect the demand for the goods. Now, short and long-term interest rates, they are significantly affecting the demand for product and service. Now, in this next slide, we'll just see how they are affecting. Now, if you have longer term rates, like if you can take the example of the home loans. So housing loans which are provided by the banks, they are provided at a very minimal rate of 6 to 7% or 7 to 8%. Why? Because there are, if you have a lower rate, it will encourage the consumers to spend more because they result in increased spending by the consumers. The consumers will be attracted towards the lower interest rate and they may want to make a long-term investment. Now, what is a long-term investment? It may be buying homes and cars on borrowed money. So, they may be interested in a huge investment in houses or on cars. So, if it is on borrowed money, this lower rate of interest will be an attractive factor for them. Then, next important factor in the economic environment is the disposable income. So, the disposable income is the income which is left over after meeting all the essential requirements of the household. Now, this disposable income, if it is rising, it will create an increased demand for products. So, when the gross domestic product is rising or when the GDP of the nation is rising, so it gives rise to more disposable income in the hands of the consumer, as a result of which we can see an increased demand demand for products. Now, it may be something which is a luxury item. The consumers may be interested in buying them because of more purchasing power. Now, in continuation of the economic environment, we can analyze what about the high inflation rate. So, if there is a high inflationary rate, now what do you mean by inflation? Inflation is nothing but rising prices or too much money chasing too little goods. So, now high inflation rate generally result in constraint on business. So, why does it have a constraint on business? Because they increase the various costs of business. So, when you have a high inflationary rate in the economy, it will automatically increase the prices of all goods, which is inclusive of the raw materials. So, whether you want to purchase the raw materials, or you want to make payment for the machinery, or you want to pay the wages and salaries to employees, everything becomes higher. So, when the business has to spend more, it will be a constraint for business activities. Then, next we look into the social environment. In this diagram, we can see how the social environment is affecting each person. So, whether it is the grandparents or the parents or the peers or friends or anybody, so they will be affecting us. Now, in the social environment of business, it includes social forces like customs and traditions. So, we'll come into that. What is the meaning of custom? What is the meaning of tradition? And they also includes the values, social trends, society's expectation from business. So, in the social environment, we will study how the tradition will affect the business. Now, the tradition defines social practices that have lasted for decades or even centuries. So, tradition, so it may be whatever is the tradition of the society that has to be followed. For example, the celebration of Diwali or Christmas or Eid and Guru Parv. So, this has been a tradition which has been in India for a very long time, and it is a social practice which has been followed for even centuries. So, this we cannot change. So, during this festival season, we can always see a rise in the demand for goods because people like to buy something new for the household, or they may want to purchase new dresses, or they may want to purchase new consumer durables. So, all these will be rooted during the festival season. Then, the next comes the values. So, values refer to the concepts that a society holds high in esteem. Now, what are the values? Like, if it is in India, we have individual freedom. So, it is value which we have been following. Then, social justice. So, there should not be any discrimination and national integration. So, these are some of the values which are followed by all the Indians, and these values are cherished by all of us. So, all these things, they have a bearing on the business activities. Next, we look into the meaning of social trends. Now, what do you mean by social trends? So, these social trends, they present various opportunities and threats to the business. So, social trends means it relates to the peer pressure. So, if the person is a college going person, so his way of dressing, his behavior, his attitudes, so all these are influenced by the peer factor, that is the close friends, the circle with whom he is moving more and more. So, that will all put an impact on his attitude and his way of dressing and his behavior. So, all of this will be affected, and as a result of which the business also will be affected. Then, if you take an example of the health and fitness trend, so this health and fitness trend has become the most important factor nowadays. People are are more and more conscious about their health. They want to maintain their health as much as possible. Now, when this trend is catching up, so they will be, because of this fitness trend, we see rise in the demand for fitness products. So it may be the going to the gym as often as possible, or they may be trying most of the healthcare products. So this trend has become more popular among the urban dwellers. So people don't want to look out of shape, they want to remain in shape, so they go to the gym and they become more conscious of their health and fitness. Now, next we look into the technological environment. So in this technological environment, it includes forces relating to scientific improvements and innovations. So as you all know, business should be always aware of the new inventions and innovations. So whatever the new inventions and innovations, it should try to encash on that new innovations. So how it should encash on that? By producing goods and services. So it should produce goods and services by using new methods and techniques of operating business. So as you all know, one of the latest method of doing business is online business. So through the internet, you can get orders and you can always deliver it to the customers. Now, because of recent technological advances in computers and electronics, they have modified the ways in which companies advertise their products. Nowadays, we see a lot of advertisements over the internet and various other medias. So these technological advances have changed the way of advertisement also. Then next is in continuing the innovations in different scientific and engineering fields. Now we see a lot of innovations coming. Every day we are getting new products. So this some of the examples are the use of lasers, robotics, biotechnology, food preservatives, medicine, telecommunication, synthetic fuels. So all these are giving us lot of opportunities, and they are also giving threats for many different other businesses also. Then, because of the technological environment in India, we can see that there is a shift in demand from vacuum tubes to transistors. So we can see that people are going in for new innovations. Now, in the previous 18th or 19th century, we had the locomotives, steam locomotives or the diesel. Now we are having almost all electric engines. Then before we used to use fountain pens, now we are using the ballpoint pen, and from propeller to aeroplanes and jets, from typewriters to computer-based word processors. So these are the various innovations which have come into existence, and some of the old ones we are fast losing them, or we are forgetting the older products which was in existence because of the latest innovations in science and technology. Then next we look into the political environment. In the political environment, we can see that political conditions. Now, what do you mean by political conditions? It represents the political situation in the country. So what is the political situation? Such as general stability. So there should be a stability in the nation. It means there should not be any chaos or confusion, and there should not be any disturbance in the day-to-day activities of the people, and general stability and peace in the country. So only if the country is in a peaceful situation, or if there is a general stability and protection for the life of the people, then also the specific attitudes that elected government representatives hold towards the business. Now, so all the elected representatives, if they are for development of the nation and if they have a positive attitude towards the business community, then that itself will create a positive impact on the business environment. Now, we'll just see how the political stability will affect the business environment. Now, the political stability builds up confidence. It will build confidence among business people to invest in long-term projects for the growth of the economy. Now, if you have political stability, then that political stability will result in building confidence. So the businessmen will be interested in larger products, investing in a very long-term products for the growth of the economy. Then next, what will happen if there is political instability? If there is political instability, then what will happen? The business community will lose confidence and they may not want to invest anywhere. The same way, the attitudes of government officials towards business may have a positive or negative impact on the business. Now, how the government officials are treating the business fraternity, that also will have a positive or a negative impact on the business. Now, next in the dimension of business environment, we look up to the legal environment. Now, what does the legal environment include? Legal environment includes various legislations. Now, what is this legislation? They are the various rules and regulations passed by the government administrative orders. So, the government will be issuing legislations which are to be followed by all the business community. So, these are legislations which are issued by government authorities, court judgments, as well as decisions rendered by various commissions and agencies at every level of the government, center, state or local. So, whatever legislations are passed by the government authorities or the court judgment or the decisions by the commissions, agencies at every level, they all affect the environment of the business. Now, whenever you are doing business, it is essential for the businessman to have adequate knowledge of the rules and regulations. So, what are the rules and regulations which have been framed by the government and which are to be followed by the business? So, this every businessman should know, because this will be the main factor which will be impacting the business activity. Now, what will happen if we don't follow the rules and regulations? So, if you don't follow, non-compliance of laws means if you don't follow the rules and regulations of the land, then it may run into, the business may run into legal problems. They may issue a notice to the business, to the organization which is not following the rules, and they may ask for closure of the business. So, it is necessary for all the business or the organizations engaged in business to know the laws of the land and also to see that the business doesn't run into legal problems. Now, if you can see the impact of the legal environment, we can see how concerned it is. For example, if you can see the cigarette packet. So, advertisements including packets of cigarette carry the statutory warning. What does it say? Cigarette smoking is injurious to health. See, on one hand, you are advertising, giving advertisement to the people to smoke, and on the other hand, you are also cautioning the people that cigarette smoking is injurious to health. Now, why should we do that? Why should we just include a warning like this? To protect the consumer's interest. So, whoever the consumer, whoever wants to make use of the cigarette, he will be warned against doing that because it is injurious to his health. Now, so these are the various aspects or various factors of the business environment. Now, let us look into the economic environment in India. So, what is the economic environment in India and what are the factors that affect the economic environment in India? So, we can just see the various macro level factors which relate to the means of production and distribution of wealth which have an impact on business and industry. So, if you can look into the various macro level factors, the first one is the stage of economic development of the country. So, what is the stage of economic development? So, whether it is an underdeveloped nation or it is a developing nation or it is already a developed nation, so that all those factors will have an impact on the economic environment. Then, next one is the economic structure. Now, what is this economic structure? It refers to the type of economy we are having in the country. So, in India, we have a mixed economy. Now, what is a mixed economy? It is a mix of both public and private sectors. Now, what is this public and private sectors? So, we have certain essential services which are given by the government, and we also nowadays we also have the private players who are providing the same essential services. Now, India has a mixed economy because we have both the public sector and the private sector, which are which are providing some essential services to the people. Now, next, in the macro level factors, we can also see the economic policies of the government. What are the economic policies of the government? Whether it is the industrial policy, whether it is the monetary policy or the fiscal policy. So, all these policies have an impact on the economic environment of India. Next, what about economic planning? So, in economic planning, India began with the 5-year plans. So, through the 5-year plans and annual budgets, India has been controlling her economy. Then next one is economic indices. Now, what do you mean by economic indices? See, there are certain indices which are calculated to assess the stage of economic development of India. Some of them are the national income, then the distribution of income, the rate and growth of GNP, that is the gross national product, the per capita income, disposal personal income, rate of savings and investments, value of exports and imports, balance payments, and so on. So, all these factors, they affect the economic environment of India. Next, infrastructural factors. Now, what are the infrastructural factors? They represent the financial institutions. Now, if you want to know what is a financial institution, financial institution means it may be the banks or it may be any LIC, that is insurance corporations, something like that. So, these financial institutions are busy with the lending of money and accepting the deposits. Then banks. Yes, banks are the most important infrastructure we need for any economy. Then modes of transportation. So, what are the different ways of transportation for the people? Then communication facilities. Now, what is this communication facility? This is the most important facility for any business activity. So, if you can have a very good communication facility, that itself is a very good, positive factor for the business. Then business enterprises in India do realize the importance and impact of the economic environment in their working. So, economic environment is very, very crucial for the working of every business. Now, let us look into the economic environment in India and how the Indian economy was at the time of independence. So, when India got independence in 1947, the Indian economy was mainly agricultural and rural in character. So, if you can see this picture here, there is agriculture. So, most of the people, about 70% of the working population was employed in agriculture. Then about 85% of the population was living in villages. Next, we could also see that production was carried out using irrational low productivity technology. Yes, so whatever few industries we had, they were using irrational technology and which was giving very low productivity, and the health of the people also was in a very pitiable situation. So, there were communicable diseases. So, diseases were rampant because there was no health healthcare, there were no doctors, and there was nobody to monitor the people. There were no hospitals at all. Then the diseases were widespread, mortality rates was very high. So people used to the longevity was very less, and there was no good public health system. So this was the situation of India during the at the time of independence. Now, studying this situation of the economic India, then Indian economy, the Indian government, it brought about some reforms. And what were the main objectives of the India's development plans? We will just see. So the main objectives of India's development plans were initiate rapid economic growth. So it wanted rapid economic growth. So why it wanted rapid economic growth? To raise the standard of living. Yes, what do you mean by standard of living? So standard of living means you try to see that people get adjusted to some of the latest products which are in the market and thereby enjoy a certain level of comfort. Then reduce unemployment and poverty. So the main business development plans were aimed at increasing the standard of living, reducing unemployment, that is, you create more employment opportunities, and also see that the poverty line is reduced. Then it also, these development plans, these plans were aimed to become India, they wanted India to become self-reliant and set up a strong industrial base with emphasis on heavy and basic industries. So they wanted to have a heavy and basic industries so that we could create more employment opportunities to the people. So this is the heavy and basic industry, the picture of that. Then we also wanted to have reduce inequalities of income and wealth. Now, how do you reduce inequalities of income and wealth? By giving good employment opportunities and creating an environment for the business. If you can create a good environment for the business, so that will help in creating more opportunities for the business, and when people get more employment, it means more money in the hands of the people. Then next is we have to adopt a socialistic pattern of development. So what is the socialistic pattern based on? It is based on equality and prevent exploitation of man by man. So you see that those who are the well-off people, they don't exploit the poorer sections of the community. So in a socialistic pattern, you consider all men are equal. So with this session, I am coming to the end of this session. So in my forthcoming sessions, I will be discussing on the various other factors which have an influence on the business environment. Thank you.